students, welcome back to class. Don't leave. I know you're looking here and you're thinking, oh God, what's happening? Doesn't look like anything fun. We're going to listen to a speech by a dark-skinned woman. Why? Because we believe in diversity. We're going to be even listening to a conservative because we believe in diversity. Because we have to always open ourselves up and not just stay. Oh, I did that again, that thing where my hand goes, off there. I always find that fascinating. My hand's like, ah. Anyways, okay, technology, green screens. Who understands it? I don't. Okay, so we're going to be listening to Candace Owens. You see here? Candace Owens, that's her name. She's 31 years old. She's American, and she's going to be giving a speech about things to do with black people, brown people, and politics, and we're going to find it interesting. And you will pay attention. All right, take some notes if that helps you to stay on track. I always have a pad with me, always. I always take notes on different things. That way you are actively learning, not just sort of passively lying there going, oh, with your mouth hanging open and drool. You gotta pay attention. You have to force yourself to concentrate. All right? Thank you to everybody who's moderating these programs when I put them up. I often do them as a premiere. Thank you to everybody who's being polite. If you are impolite, if you're spreading lies, if you spread lies, you're actually banned from the channel completely. If you're just being a goofball and you're throwing a couple of things in there that are just kind of rude, well, we're going to put you in timeout a few times. But if you actually spread lies, this is just your warning. You're not coming back. You're going to have to open a whole new YouTube account to try to get back. So just be kind. Be polite. If you have things to say, you feel free to say them on your own YouTube videos. Okay, this comment section is not for people to just shit all over and piss all over. It's my home, and you will be polite in my home. Let's listen to Candace.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Candace Owens.
Don't forget to subscribe while we're waiting for her to come on the stage, and hit the little bell so that you'll always be here to watch these videos with me.
Wow. Hello. Can you guys hear me all the way in the back? Yes.
She's my daughter's age. 31, I think she is.
I love you guys too. All right, I'm going to get right into this. So I said to my husband the other day that it's become apparent to me over these last few years that the left has no idea that the world did not begin in 1776. 3 years of traveling the country and facing off with hysterical liberals, and that is my scientific conclusion, that they haven't the slightest idea that anything exists or that anything ever existed outside of the United States of America. And let me give you a recent example. You will all recall when the left, which in my opinion has morphed into a doomsday cult, feverishly and inaccurately predicting that everything President Trump says or does will end America.
But you remember that this video was made on February 28th in 2020, so it's already a year old. So she's talking about President Trump, who was then elected.
You all recall when they once again prophesized our doom when Iranian terrorist Soleimani was slain in a military operation. You remember that, right? This is the beginning of World War III, their headlines read.
Not sure why she was smiling talking about that. I don't think she means to smile about the fact that somebody was murdered. Hopefully not.
Promised us we were going to head straight into World War III. It was a remarkable day because it was the day that we watched Democrats and liberals, the ones who have been shrieking about sexism, misogyny, and the need for more feminism, turn into passionate defenders of the state of Iran, the country whose constitution quite literally states that a woman's life is worth half that of a man's, a country where women are punished by law for up to 10 years in prison if they are caught not wearing a veil, suddenly became the apple of the left's eye. Of course, the war never happened, but in the midst of their delirium, a tweet went out from resident anti-American Colin Kaepernick. And the tweet read, exactly, and I quote, "There is nothing new about American attacks against black and brown people for the expansion of American imperialism. America has always sanctioned and besieged black and brown bodies. American militarism is the weapon wielded by American imperialists to enforce its policing and plundering of the non-white world," end quote. Fascinating. A rant about black and brown bodies being imperialized, a word that I must assume Colin either doesn't know the definition or the history of, used in defense of Iran. And so, of course, you know me on Twitter. I felt it necessary to mention to Colin, gently, of course, you know me, I'm very nice on Twitter, to mention to Colin that that particular country of brown and black bodies used to be known as Persia. And rather unfortunately for his implied thesis regarding their perpetual victimhood at the hands of white people, Persia used to be an empire, quite literally an imperial dynasty for 200 years, almost as long as America has been alive. It was once the most powerful state in the world, imperializing regions from Egypt to India, regions of, you guessed it, black and brown people. And while I have to say that I was not shocked to learn that Colin Kaepernick has evidently never picked up a historical textbook, I will say that I was shocked that he hadn't at the very least seen the movie 300. A little movie where the black and brown bodies are looking to imperialize the white bodies in Greece. Maybe he thought it was all made up and fiction. Or maybe Colin Kaepernick isn't earning millions to tell the truth. Maybe he's being paid millions to convince black and brown bodies that they are oppressed, to keep them angry and confused and uneducated, which could explain why on Thanksgiving Day of last year, Colin tweeted, I quote, "The U.S. government has stolen over 1.5 billion acres of land from Indigenous people. Thank you to my Indigenous family. I am with you now and always," end quote. Holiday tweets are his favorite, by the way. On the 4th of July, he tweeted, what to the American slave is your 4th of July? Co-opting, by the way, a Frederick Douglass quote and stripping it of its original context to convey the idea that blacks owe this country not a moment of celebration. I'm talking about Colin because the picture that he is painting is clear, and I'm using him as an example because it is so in line with the overall opinion that we are seeing come from the left today, an opinion that America is a horribly racist country whose guilt cannot be untethered from...
So Candace doesn't believe that racism is as bad as many other dark-skinned people do. That's one of the points that she's making here.
Her period of slavery, which is interesting because if slavery is an everlasting sin from white men, why was Colin so clearly able to forgive that sin from American Indigenous people, his quote-unquote family?
She's saying that there was slavery all around the world and that there still exists slavery now, and that it is not just in America where the white people are enslaving the black people.
That's an inconvenient truth. You see, the sin of slavery was not brought to this continent by white Europeans, as the left would have us imagine. Slavery existed everywhere in the world, including here since the dawn of humanity. Different Native American tribes weren't sitting around kumbayaing over a fireplace. They were trying to imperialize one another. They would enslave their war captives into labor. They would sometimes sell their own children.
So she's saying that even before any Americans came here, when there were just the Indigenous people, that even these people who are brown-skinned, the First Nations people, they were also enslaving one another and they were fighting among themselves. And that, in other words, what she's saying is that skin color doesn't matter. Basically, that's her main message.
Tortured others as a part of their religion.
There's good and bad in everyone.
Just rights, and depending on which tribe you were in, cannibalism was even the commonplace.
Cannibalism is when a human would eat another human.
Oh, did cannibalism get lost in Colin's flowery depiction of Indigenous people? Yes, before the Europeans ever landed in the Americas, Native Americans routinely cannibalized one another. Most notorious among them, perhaps, was the Aztecs. When the Spanish colonists arrived in Mexico City, they were greeted by piles of over 100,000 skulls belonging to humans that had been sacrificed to the gods. In fact, in one archaeological...
100,000 skulls? She could be right. I'm just wondering, back then, before calculators and proper statistics, I don't know. I'm just saying that whenever you hear things like this, you always have to just pause. Just take a pause. I'm not saying that I don't believe her, but I'm just saying, sometimes people add a couple extra zeros to things. by accident, I don't know. We should all just listen to her speech, but always just think to yourself, what is her agenda here? What does she want to convince us of? And why does she want to convince us to do that thing or to think that way? I know that Candace, I'm pretty sure that she's not vegan. She's never said anything about being vegan. And I'm hoping that somebody like her, who seems to care a lot about equality, that and saying that, there's good black people, there's bad black people, there's good brown people and bad brown people, there's good white people and bad white people. She seems to be saying this, that we should treat people individually based on what they do and how they are, not just how they look. And so I'm hoping that somebody like Candace is going to one day come across some animal rights activists who are going to say, hey, Candace, what's on your plate? And if you believe in equality, why are you paying people to rape, torture, and murder innocent animals for you? Now, I'm saying this because I really don't think that she's vegan. Although I have nothing to base that on except standard statistics, which is that there are so few of us. So I am keeping an eye on people like Candace. They're young. I think she seems to be somebody who would like to be in politics. Who knows if she ends up running for the president of the United States one day. She's very well spoken. She's great at giving speeches. She's extremely interested in current events. So I could see that as one of the things that she would want to do in the future. Right now she's, I think, only 31 years old. So
they found the remains of 42 children, all around the age of 5, who were sacrificed to the rain god. Special days required more sacrifice, by the way.
So she's saying that even brown-skinned people back then were sacrificing, meaning they as tribes or whatever, they killed children who were only 5 years old for whatever reason. And these people who believe in these religious things and these bizarre cultural rituals, that's why that are concerning. That's why I always say, if your religion tells you to do something wrong, you got to change religions, or you got to try to fix it within your religion. If the Bible tells you thou shalt not kill, and you go to church and you see your priest eating dead animals, you got to kind of wonder what's going on. We must always think of the victims in society. And I hope that somebody like Candace is not going to suffer from her cognitive dissonance for too long and will come out as a vegan animal rights activist and actually care about things beyond herself, her own fame, whatever. I think she cares a lot about people. She seems to, but we never know what's going on. Like I said, take everything as you see it. When the message comes to you, don't judge it. Just kind of look at it and go, I wonder which part of this is true. I wonder what this person is trying to sell me. What idea do they want to get into my head? Let's just listen anyway. It's important to listen to different people so that we get a wider perspective of the world.
On the inauguration of Aztec's Temple Major, they sacrificed between 20,000 and 60,000 human beings in a single day.
Sacrificing 20,000 to 60,000 humans in a day seems like a huge amount of people. How do they count people like that? How do they keep track without having computers and proper identification of things? How much of that is rumors? That's why when I read things like the Bible, I think the same thing. How much of this is true? These are just humans who wrote these things years and years ago with their own biases. Take what is good. Anytime you read something or hear from somebody, what you have to do is simply listen. And if you hear a good message that's going to help people, then follow that. If you hear something that doesn't make sense, it seems a bit weird, that tells you to do something bad, like eating animals or hurting people or whatever, push that away.
Their ceremonies, I'd like to paint a little bit for you, a picture of the ceremonies. The ceremonies were performed in front of large crowds. Usually an adult male victim was held on a stone, his chest was slashed open, and the priest would take his still beating heart and hold it to the...
A priest. So you're talking about sacrificing a human man, tying him down, cutting him open, taking out his heart, and she's basically saying these were not white people who were doing these things. And she's trying to make the point that white people are not that bad, which is interesting because she clearly does not have white skin. I know she is married to a white man and she's now a mother. She's married to a white British man. It's interesting. I just find it interesting that people are so different. And there's not too many young, dark-skinned women who are so articulate in the media right now. So if there are others, I will be definitely looking at them. I will be listening to, and we will be evaluating speeches from everybody all over the world. Everybody. Because we are interested in learning and how things tie together, and we're interested in cognitive dissonance, this sort of this thing that people go through where their head is telling them one thing, their heart is telling them something, and they're all mixed up, and their actions are not necessarily in line with their morals. And we want to also challenge our own cognitive dissonance to make sure that we are thinking straight and being as kind as we can to everybody, regardless of their gender, regardless of their size, their age, regardless of their religion, whatever. We try to be kind. But if somebody is hurting others, we don't tolerate that bullshit. We stand up and we say that's not okay.
Son. The severed head was then placed on a rack, and his remaining body was rolled down the temple where it was skinned and it was dismembered. And the body parts were then distributed to the spectators to take home to eat. For decades, the colonists' writings about the savage culture of Native Americans were dismissed here in the United States. The politically correct argument was that white European men needed to wrongly portray the indigenous people to justify their own genocidal pursuits. Liberals in the United States even went so far as to claim that the Native Americans themselves had lied, or rather, more politically correct, had been misunderstood in their own recorded sacred texts regarding their cannibalistic practices. Until science happened and anthropology in the year 2000, an anthropologist came and was hesitant to report his findings from Colorado, which he characterized as definitive evidence for sporadic cannibalism in the Southwest of America. Even the lying, leaking New York Times had to acknowledge the truth in an article that they then published entitled, "New Data Suggests Cannibalism by Ancient Indians." Now, I want to be clear here that my purpose in sharing all of that is not to issue some sweeping condemnation of Native American Indians, nor is it to offer up a vindication for the murderous actions of the early colonists. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth about the history of all men of days past.
She means all people.
The truth about the history of all men of days past, a history that is complex, ugly, brutish, immoral, and leaves no man, regardless of his skin complexion, guiltless. But the left wants us to believe otherwise. To them, imperialism, cannibalism, murder, slavery, all of these undeniably sinful acts are forgiven in a historical context so long as they were not committed by white men. So, they can forget the murderous Persian Empire. They can forget the cannibalism of indigenous tribes. They can forget the heinous actions of imperialistic Egyptian Empire, the Turkish Empire, the Muslim Abbasid and Rashidun Caliphate empires, the Chinese Qing and Ming empires, the Mongol Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Japanese Empire. We can forget the fact that the overwhelming majority of the world's empires were not run by white men. They also, by the way, choose to forget the fact that the first to abolish the practice of slavery was Great Britain.
Did you guys hear that? The first country to abolish slavery was Great Britain. After that, it was France. And then it was the United States, according to Candace.
They were then followed by the French colonies, who were then followed by the United States. Centuries of slavery and 3 countries of white men led the world in ending it. No. Don't clap. You're supposed to forget it. You're supposed to forget it because leftist indoctrination teaches us today that it only really mattered. Slavery only really mattered when they did it. The white man's history needs to never, ever be forgotten. But what if we're not talking about history? What if we're talking about present? What if we're talking about today? People like Colin Kaepernick hate America right now, and that hatred is rooted in some intangible concept of the present sin of our country's mere existence. Surely, that must be the reason why on the 4th of July, Colin also tweeted, "How can we truly celebrate independence on a day that intentionally robbed our ancestors of theirs? To find my independence, I went home." end quote. He was referring to Africa. Colin took a trip to Ghana because, in his own words, he wanted to see what his people saw before they were forcefully taken away. And I really want to pause and drive this point home, so let me restate it. In lieu of celebrating his independence in America, Colin got on a plane and went to Africa, a continent upon which he found better grounds for celebration, which is interesting. It's interesting because currently, today in Africa,
So she's basically saying that I guess this guy has dark skin. I don't know who she's talking about, but he didn't want to celebrate in America because he thinks that America is racist, and he went back to Africa. And now she's going to explain why she thinks that doesn't really make sense.
there are close to 700,000 slaves, and this is going to
There are 700,000 slaves in Africa right now. So she's trying to make the point that if he's going there to try to live a life of freedom or go to a better place, that there are more slaves there than there are in America. This is her point. Now remember, I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with anything that she says. I am simply bringing this woman here onto my platform because I think she has a different opinion, something interesting. Many people don't know her yet. Many people have maybe never seen an articulate young black woman who does not buy this idea that there is a lot of racism. I don't know to what degree she thinks there is some. I'm hoping that she acknowledges that there is some. I think, anyway, you know what? Let's just listen to her.
to shock the heck out of the too woke to see what's in front of them crowd, but they are not being enslaved by white people. They are being enslaved by other Africans. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor all exist within the same sub-Saharan region that the transatlantic slave trade took place. African bodies are being sold today like they were being sold then, and they are not being purchased by any country of predominantly white men. It's a wonder that Colin never mentioned that in Ghana today, his beloved country of emotional reprieve from the horror of America, 20,000 children live in slavery to support the fishing industry along Lake Volta. In fact, it was leftist network CNN that covered the story last year when a boy was rescued from slavery and had explained to them that while in captivity, he was made to work tirelessly, and that if the famished children were caught trying to eat the fish, they were beaten so senselessly that they wished that they had never been born. Why didn't Colin mention any of this? Why haven't any of the alleged courageous leaders on black issues of oppression mentioned any of this? I know, because they aren't leaders at all. They're all extortionists. Colin extorted Black America to earn millions. Colin extorted Native Americans to maintain his image, and Colin extorted Ghana for a photo op so he could continue to earn those millions. But Colin wasn't the first, he isn't the only, and he certainly won't be the last. So, to Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, to Nisi Coates, to CNN, to the New York Times, to MSNBC and their anchors, to every single one of you race hustlers who have extorted black pain to line your own pockets, who have blindfolded the black youth against seeing the opportunities that lay beneath their feet here in America, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, I say this to you. There will be a Blexit, a black exit.
She's saying that young black men do have a lot of opportunities, but they are not told that they do. They are told that they are victims. She doesn't like that.
You have seen how a man was made a slave. That sentence is the first half of a Frederick Douglass quote. I like it because it rings true now. I have seen how a man was made a slave. I have seen how black Americans have been enslaved to the debate of race, how liberals, how leftists, how Democrats continue to enchain us to this inconsequential debate while robbing us blindly of our family, our faith, and our future through their abhorrent policies. You have seen how a man was made a slave. Then he continues the quotation. And now you shall see how a slave was made a man. To the veterans And so I say to the veterans of this black ideological civil war, those of us that have survived the constant onslaught and the media thrashings and fight daily to awaken our brothers and sisters, to the patriots who have fought beside us, cheered us on, to my supporters, those of you that have seen me to this point.
Sorry to just stop quickly, but she reminds me here where she's talking about people trying to raise awareness about things. She reminds me of animal rights activists who are always trying to raise awareness about the suffering of the animals on factory farms who are murdered constantly every day by people like her. But she doesn't realize it. She's talking about her issue. She has her issue. She cares about America. She cares about politics, current events, but she doesn't care about what's going on with the animals. But I here on my platform am willing to open myself up and listen to her ideas. Wouldn't it be great if these people opened themselves up to understand what the animals are going through, the incredible destruction of the environment that's going on right now? Wouldn't it be great if people like her watched the documentaries, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, Dominion Movement, Earthlings, Forks Over Knives, What the Health, The Game Changers, all of the main documentaries to help her understand that she can be vegan? I really hope that in the future she will be.
From just a girl on YouTube with a different idea to the very soon to be published author of the aptly entitled book, Blackout: How Black America Will Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantations. To all of you in this room, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for experiencing this journey with me, but most importantly, for seeing how this former slave to poisonous liberal ideology was made a woman, was made a patriot, was made an American. May God bless you all.
Interesting. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you know Candace? Have you ever heard of her before? What do you think of her views? Does she seem radical? A lot of black people are unhappy with her because they say, you should be telling everybody how we are victims. And then there's a whole other segment of black people who are saying, good job. You know what? We're not really victims. Actually, there's a lot of opportunity here. We got to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. I find the whole discussion very interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you everybody who moderates my channel. Thank you to the patrons who help to support me. Every day that I get a little bit of money, I think to myself, great, I can buy some soy milk, I can buy some blueberries, I can buy equipment here. I just recently bought this green screen just a little while ago. All of this stuff helps me so much. I really appreciate it. Your support means a lot to me, and even if you don't have $3 a month, that's okay. You can also just support me by coming into the comment section and by making your own videos. You can make videos about my videos. You can make videos about the animals. Go and do your animal rights activism. Make t-shirts that say animal defender. I'm probably going to add something to this like be an animal defender or something like that. I realize I have extra space here, but do stuff. Be out there. Subscribe to this channel. We're going to be learning so much. We're going to be learning about politics. We're going to be learning about human nature, cognitive dissonance. We're going to be learning about speciesism. We're going to be learning about recipes. We're going to be learning about all the animals, everything, the oceans, how everything is connected. I am that vegan teacher. I am so happy that you are here joining me. Thank you so much for being here. And by the way, I have some merch, in case you didn't know. Right now, I think I have only 2 shirts. One says, why the fuck aren't you vegan yet? And another one says, vegan donut, which is the sort of thing that Gordon Ramsay called me. I am working on doing a lot of these other things. There's also, by the way, there's a Discord channel pretending to be me. It's not me. So if you think they're talking to me, that's not me. That's somebody pretending to be me. There are thousands of accounts pretending to be me. Be very careful. If you want to know who the real me is and what I think, come to this channel. I'm not banned here. This is me. I'm going to try to be on here every day if I can, just to make you sure that you know I'm alive, what my views are. We're going to be learning together. It's hard to stay on schedule right now. I'm trying to put something out at noon on a regular basis, but there's always technology problems, or life happens. The dog needs a walk, or got to go to the dentist or whatever. So bear with me. I'm trying really hard. Thank you again so much, all of you, for being here. I will see you in the next video. Don't forget though, Cow's milk is for baby cows. All right? Peace begins on your plate. Open up your heart. Be vegan. Thank you so much. Bye.